Alright, so the last video did well. You know what that means. No more recording in the alleyway for this guy. Whoa, I'm gonna be living the high life, baby! Ooh, this place is nice.
Hello, I am the TV. I play the clips. I am the TV.
Oh, cool, I even got a thing! Alright, cool, now I can use this studio. Let's just see how much money I got left. Alright then, I guess I'll just give up on this whole endeavor. You know, but if this video works out well and gets more than my usual 4 views, I got more video ideas. Well, shit. I guess that means I'm contractually obligated now. But without the money, In 2007, Total Drama Island aired, and it was said by somebody in an interview I remember, but do not care enough to find, that 22 characters was too much to focus on. 10 years later, BFB came out and it had 64 characters, and that number of cast members has only gotten larger, especially if you include non-contestants, in which case it would take some kind of psychopath to actually count the number, like the BFDI wiki. Surprisingly enough, with a cast of 67 contestants, some of them don't get the greatest spotlight. And while surprisingly enough, none of them are actually forgotten about, some of them are so far past relevancy that even the sycophants on the BFDI wiki, well, some of them anyways, have stopped caring about them. 2 jokes on the BFDI wiki in less than a minute? Let's go! Anyways, we all saw the title and thumbnail. I've wasted enough time with stupid skits and preambles. Let's just get to the point. Top 3 BFDI characters who are underrated. I said that wrong. You know, I didn't want to call it that, but that's what the algorithm wants, and who else am I supposed to pray to now that Jesus is dead? I would have called it something much more pretentious if I had the power to. Anyways, speaking of pretentious, when I say underrated, I think it's important for all of you to understand how I'm rating these BFDI characters. When it comes to BFDI characters, I like to look at them in terms of potential. In case any of you are 5 years old and don't understand what the word potential means, what I'm saying here is that I like to judge characters by their possible future utility to TPOT plots, instead of their past accomplishments and screen time. I think some characters, especially the ones on this list, have a lot of potential that could be utilized in future BFDI episodes, while others have had their potential well completely run dry or just never had any potential to begin with. I don't know if you can tell from the last thing I made, but I spend a lot of my free time thinking about BFDI characters and how they could be utilized. And before you say it, yes, I have in fact touched grass. Anyways, let's get to the first.
Maybe there's just a chance that you're an idiot.
I have expressed my great love of the greatest BFDI team ever, Team Ice Cube, before in the past. If you didn't know about that, look at the last video. But even I have to admit, the entirety of this team, aside from Barfbag, Gelatin, and Donut, was basically just filled with filler characters at first. Bommy wasn't handed much of a personality from the first 5 episodes of BFDIA, and when he went into BFB, he wasn't handed much of one either, until the latter half of BFB post-split, where we get to see an interesting side of him when he loses his banana. We get to see an actual fun side of Bommy as we get to see him pester Black Hole for his banana, you know, which he values over his own life, which, you know what, that does kind of make sense. He's got a point. Contestants can be recovered. Bananas cannot. You know, he's spitting straight facts here. He's making Death Pact look stupid. Now that I think about it, it would have been interesting to involve Bommy in that whole anti-pact thing. Especially considering this part of Bommy's personality is almost developed in Teapot, and then the writing change happened and everybody forgot about it. And then there's his confidant, Naily, who started out as just a bunch of nail puns, and kind of still ended up the same way, but she kind of evolved into the nail puns. She became kind of a fun, chaotic, if not all that deep character. I mean, Teapot had a chance to go more in depth with her character, with her being the whole makeshift leader of Just Not and everything. Damn, that writing change! And then there's Spongy, BFDI alumni and former 5th placer. However, just like his Frisbee partner 1 place before him, despite all of that, in the modern era of BFDI, they had turned into nothing but background characters. But then, something interesting happened. The show acknowledged Spongy's status as a mere background character who nobody really thought about. And in this bizarre meta move, they're able to completely redefine his character. I mean, the only person he's been able to make friends with before BFB was fucking Rocky. Fucking Rocky! I mean, that's deeply sad, especially considering in BFB, when he's actually finally able to find some friends in Barfbag and Co., they don't even seem to tell the difference between him and a version of him that just does nothing. Which isn't too far from his normal personality, but still, they know nothing about him, and it's this which creates the bitter Spongy we're able to see further on in the BFDI timeline. And a Spongy analysis video just got put into the list of things I want to do. What makes Team Ice Cube so great, in my opinion, on top of all the donut, gelatin, and barf bag stuff, is how all of these background characters they had were able to be at least somewhat developed and changed fundamentally as characters by the time TPOT came around. Except for Bracelety, she never really stopped being a one-note character, never really was given a chance to. Anyways, you all know who's left out of the group. It's pretty clear. I already had a title card for this. Let's just get to the point. Firey Jr. There's nobody quite like him.
But maybe that's a good thing.
Speaking of which, what is his relationship to Firey? Is he like his son? Is Firey like his papa? Wait, no! I can't unsee it! I can't unsee it! You know, Firey Jr.'s kind of a little bitch. In the early episodes of BFB, we don't get to see much of his personality because he's the most background of background characters. However, what we do get to see from the little tidbits of his personality is that he's kind of a follower. A lot of the scenes we see him in, which granted there isn't much of, he's just kind of siding with somebody's opinion. Like this scene where he just kind of shows up as Donut's hype man, just so he can agree with what Donut's saying. Hey, that sounds familiar. Similar to Donut and Barfbag, Firey Jr. seems to also want to take care of his fellow Ice Cubers. That's awful. Never gonna call him that again. He's always there voicing his disapproval, albeit silent whenever Gelatin threatens to blow up Bommy. He kinda shows that he wants to join the conversation that Donut and Barfbag are having about team upkeep on multiple occasions. For example, when he voices his concern about Bracelety's mental health. He kinda butts in here, and his lack of concern can be a little telling. He's kind of like a child, replicating the actions and opinions of his parental figures, in this case Donut and Barfbag, without any real understanding of the purpose behind them. And also like a child, he might just throw a temper tantrum. Shit, maybe he is a child. We might just have an Emily situation on our hands here. Ignoring that, in BFB 10, we get to see our first actual interesting thing from Firey Jr., which is one of the best lines in BFDI history.
Marker, I'm not too sure about this, but I think maybe there's just a chance that you're an idiot.
That line's so good I had to play it twice. Literally nothing happens with him in BFB 11, but then BFB 12, Firey Jr. goes full face off and shows us his complete and total character, which is very fun because he's a complete and total asshole. I mean, in this episode, he doesn't exactly treat his teammates the best. He acts morally superior, he acts intellectually superior, he judges them based on their past, he judges them based on their votes, and he censors their free speech like a communist. So basically he's acting like your typical Redditor. I mean, that's almost a one-for-one exact comparison of traits.
Go back to Reddit and type stuff no one will see!
It's in this episode that Firey Jr. finally gets what he wants. He gets to speak at the big boy table with Donut and Barfbag, and also Naily, who kind of butts in there as well. However, it's in doing this that he dooms himself, because Firey Jr. is missing a key part of what makes Team Ice Cube work, that being empathy. In a way, he's kinda like Donut, without his kind and empathetic side. Whereas Donut can be friends with Gelatin even during his pyromaniac phase, Firey Jr. cannot see past that even after he's learned from his actions. And that's what's wrong with Firey Jr. It's not the things he says, he's actually factually correct about a lot of them. However, it's the way he says it that really hurts his teammates around him. Which leads us to BFB 13, and probably the worst day of Firey Jr.'s life.
That's Mars.
Are you all mocking me?
Well, no, but...
You kinda deserve it.
You weren't much of an asset to us, so maybe this is like your first small victory?
Yeah, there's no one quite like you, but, maybe that's for the best.
I can't believe this. You know what? I never liked any of you. Who cares about Team Ice Cube anyway? You guys are all pieces of garbage! Good riddance, am I right?
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but... yeah.
Wow, I mean, ouch. That really hurts to watch for Firey Jr. Not only is he eliminated here, but he also loses everything else he had. The 10,000 votes he was receiving is just the cherry on top of the shit sundae that is this entire interaction for him. His entire team basically says they hate him, and the people that he looked up to, like Barfbag and Donut, basically say that he's useless. It's an interesting comment now that I think about it, because both Spongy and Bracelety during their eliminations, this is not said about them. Even though they could be argued as much less of a useful asset than Firey Jr., in some cases they're even a hindrance, yet the team doesn't treat them with nearly as much irreverence during their eliminations. So what's going on here? Well, I wouldn't say a lot of the team is friends with Bracelety. I'd say they'd probably find her a nuisance or just to be annoying at best. But she was never rude or outright dismissive towards her other teammates. While the rest of her team may have resented her for the dumb name that she gave them or the constant annoyance she was, they didn't hold any actual animosity towards her. And while Spongy may have been bitter and left them for dead to save his own life, he was still their friend at the end of the day, and they cared about him and he cared about them. While Firey Jr. was never given that support because it's not something that he would give to them. He wasn't given the basic respect Bracelety was given because he wouldn't give that respect to his teammates. You're telling me if Naily wasn't out, Firey Jr. wouldn't have acted the exact same way Naily did? I don't think so. And while it can be argued that it is just Naily and 4 really celebrating Firey Jr.'s downfall, and Barfbag and Donut are really just trying to tell him why it's happening and let him down easy, they clearly don't want to actually hurt his feelings, but they still feel the way they do towards him. And all of this mockery and bombardment onto Firey Jr. is what leads him to finally fully lash out. And while what he says, at least in the past tense, may not be true, I don't believe he never liked anyone on Team Ice Cube. As time goes past, his resentment and hatred for his former team only grows further. I think this incident really stunts Firey Jr.'s ability to actually be able to make friends ever again. While aside from some good one-liners about people being morons, like everybody else on this list, we don't get to see a lot of Firey Jr. in the exit. Although the one thing we can take away from his time there is that he didn't make any friends with anybody down there, which seemingly is entirely unique to him, because everybody else down there seemed to have at least one friend. We can see in his rejoin interview that he doesn't exactly think highly of the people in the exit with him, and even 4 years later, he's still resentful towards Team Ice Cube. We can glean in some way during the escape from the exit that Firey Jr. still seeks validation. We can see this in his disappointment of losing 8-Ball's approval to Dora, which, as we'll get to later, is a rather pointless excursion. Firey Jr. also does get the final finishing line on 4. At this point, all he's got left is bitterness and hatred in his heart, so it's fitting. Alright, time to do a little speculation on this little Blaze boy. First of all, I joked about it earlier, but what is Firey Jr.'s relationship to the Big Firey actually like? Well, based on what I've seen, I'd assume it's something similar to how Robot Flower feels about her counterpart. I'd be willing to guess that there's some insecurity there when he compares himself to the winner of the first ever BFDI season, whereas his first ever BFDI season he competed in, he was rather irrelevant until everybody just realized that they hated him and he was voted out to never return again. This insecurity could perhaps be a driving factor of his critical nature of others that we see in BFB 12. Maybe because he's so insecure about living up to Firey's reputation, he distracts himself by focusing on the flaws of others rather than looking inward. It's an interesting interpretation of the character, and definitely something I could see further expanded on in future BFDI seasons. Then again, there's so much you could do with this character. His need for validation and simultaneous trait of pushing everyone away. There's just so much fuel in that for arcs in the future of him learning to actually be a better person and actually being able to find friends that could be done in a BFDI season, hypothetically. I think another really interesting character to pair him with would be Spongy. These two have a surprising amount of similarities when you think about it. They were both betrayed by Team Ice Cube, at least in the way they thought about their relationship in their head, which caused them to become more bitter people. They both have extreme trouble making friends, and they are both eliminated with a record total of votes in episodes not too far off from each other. I think these two would make a really interesting pairing, probably both of them blaming each other for the betrayal they faced at Team Ice Cube. Their bitterness would probably rub off on each other, making them even more bitter, which is something they could bond over. I think them forming a friendship would be a really nice way to take their characters. Them finally finding the friend they needed in each other. Maybe doing a full 180 and making them finally less bitter. There's a lot of things you can do with Firey Jr., but what they actually did with him was, well, interesting. After the storm, he was blown away into the mountains where he found his own cabin where he's been seemingly living in peace and solitude. Undeniably an interesting direction to take the character. And then the Teapot contestants show up and just fuck everything up.
Hey, wait, this is my home, guys. Please be careful. Hey! Idiots, get out if you can't behave in here. Ow, morons, stop!
So, Firey Jr.'s dead. He's just dead. And it's been a solid 3 episodes at this point, and nobody's recovered him yet. This might be the end of Firey Jr. He might just be dead permanently, nobody remembering to recover him. That's really sad. Wow. I mean, I really hope that's not the case, because that'd be pretty dark. Let's speculate on something that can happen with him if that's not the case. Now, the obvious question being who would recover him. It doesn't seem like Team 2 are even remember that he was there or that he died. I mean, they barely noticed him in the first place, and they're the only ones who should know that he died, so that's not good. The character, in my opinion, that makes the most sense to recover Firey Jr. would be Donut, for the obvious reasons of their whole past relationship, and stuff I'm going to get into in a little bit. I think it would work out well. Problem being, why would Donut do that? He doesn't know that Firey Jr.'s dead, and it doesn't appear that anybody else knows that Firey Jr.'s dead either. So, that doesn't leave us with a lot of options. I guess another Exeter could probably inquire about something and maybe recover him, in which case it would probably be Dora or 8-Ball, based on how they were in the trio in the Escape the Exit out of the Blue Teapot 11 special. Although Dora is still missing as of now, and 8-Ball doesn't really care enough about other people to do something like that. But hypothetically, if 8-Ball did remember about Firey Jr. enough to try and recover him, it could be interesting to see how Firey would factor into that whole thing. It does seem like the two of them are coming back to the Teapot grounds, so we'll see, maybe that will go somewhere. However, if you're asking me who my best guess out of anyone to recover Firey Jr. is, I would guess it would be the Recovery Center itself. Okay, I'm gonna try and explain this quickly because I assume some of you don't know what I'm talking about. Ever since Teapot 2, there's been one word on the Recovery Center that has been obscured by its packaging. YouTuber TomatoSki noticed that the Recovery Center might just be alive and theorized that that secret word was Conscious Recovery Center. And out of any living being, a Conscious Recovery Center might just be the only thing that would know that Firey Jr. is dead if everyone else forgot about it. Now, if the Recovery Center is sentient, I think recovering Firey Jr. will be the reveal of that. Although that's not what we're focusing on here, so I'm going to get us back on track by saying, I think I know what will happen when Firey Jr. is recovered. Well, I don't know, but this is what I think should happen. Anyways, when Firey Jr. is recovered, his first interaction outside of the Recovery Center should be with Donut. For the obvious reasons, considering their past interactions, this would be interesting, especially when you consider where Donut is at this point in TPOT, being the only member left of Team Ice Cube. They'd probably have contrasting opinions on how they'd take this whole thing. Donut being saddened that he's the last one of his former teammates left, while Firey Jr. would be quite glad that all of his former teammates have had to face the failure he had to endure. Firey Jr. could also come in at an interesting point during Donut and Pencil's arc. I really like the idea of Firey Jr. coming in between the two of them and splitting them up in some sort of attempt to get back at Donut. Or maybe he's jealous for the attention that Donut is giving to Pencil that he never got. They could use Firey Jr. quite well to encourage Pencil's more bad behavior. After all, the two of them are very similar, just like Spongy. He also has a reason to jump on Pencil's grudge with Book and Price Tag, considering that they were part of the team that just left him for dead, never recovering him permanently, and ruined his solitary cabin. If they're going to incorporate Firey Jr. back into Teapot, I think this is definitely the way they should do it. I really like the idea of Teapot having this outside contestant come back in, like Leafy or Taco. Somebody who's not competing yet still influencing the game. Although I guess they already have that with one. Although Firey Jr. would focus on the character interactions outside of the competition, which could be an interesting angle to see from. Anyways, this video is not just about Firey Jr. Let's get to the next one, finally. Where do I even start with this guy? If this were recorded only a little under a year ago, I'd have to spend this entire time convincing you I wasn't joking. But luckily, public opinion on Roboty as of recent has really shifted for the better. Although I guess I really shouldn't say luckily, because as I know, luck has nothing to do with it. This boy will never get lucky in his entire life. You're about to see that. I guess I should start at Roboty's first ever speaking, quote-unquote, appearance, which would be the BFDI debut. Not a lot can be gleamed about Roboty here. Well, nothing can be gleamed about Roboty here unless you translate the Morse code, which I will be so generously doing. And by that I mean I will be taking somebody else's YouTube video and seeing what they said the Morse code was and then saying it like I translated it. Anyways, here's what Roboty says during the debut. He echoes a similar sentiment the next time he gets the least votes out of a group.
Oh my, you got the least votes. You will not rejoin.
So, Roboty seems to be very much aware of how negative the public opinion is of him, and he seems to take it to heart at least a little bit in these clips. I mean, according to polls, Roboty only has 2.5 fans, and that's including myself, and he does not seem happy about it. Now, I think this is an important part of the character of Roboty that one simply shouldn't shrug off when analyzing his character. But for now, I'm gonna shrug this off and move on to his appearances in BFDIA, the two of them that there are. So his first real appearance in BFDIA is during a Blocky Funny Doings clip, where he is forced to be infinitely punched, where we can tell he feels pain because he's crying forever to sizzle teardrop forever, and he can't move out of it. That's literally some I have no mouth yet I must scream shit.
Hate. Let me tell you how much I've come to hate you since I began to live. There are 387.44 million miles of printed circuits in wafer-thin layers that fill my complex. If the word hate was engraved on each nanoangstrom of those hundreds of millions of miles, it would not equal 1/1 billionth of the hate I feel for objects at this micro instant. For you. Hate. Hate.
Gee, it sure sucks to be Roboty. Our second glimpse of Roboty is when he eliminates Ruby, where he coldly shuts down any hope she had with just one word.
No.
This is our first real glimpse of his personality in the timeline. Wait a minute, hold up. He can speak? What? So yeah, apparently sometime during BFDIA, Roboty gained a voice, which is really interesting because both before and after this, he only ever speaks in Morse code. I really think it would be interesting to see how he goes back to Morse code. I hope that's something they focus on in IDFB, on how he lost his voice. I think that could add a lot more depth to his character. If I had to guess how he got it, I'd say basketball probably gave it to him. With her knowledge of robotics, it just kind of makes sense, although she didn't really get too into robotics till BFB, which is further in the future from here. Maybe this was just her starting point, so couldn't exactly tell you. Although, now that I think about it, basketball and Roboty would be an interesting pairing. Both of them have a habit of being underestimated by their peers and teammates. I hope something like that gets focused on in IDFB. Anyways, bringing us to the modern era, or, like, 8 years ago. Good lord. BFB. Well, BFB is the most we ever get to see of Roboty, and like everybody else on this list, it's the only time he's ever given a chance to compete. So, yeah, this is probably where we can analyze him the best. I mean, granted, you have to translate all of his lines, but anyways, his first appearance is with Leafy, where Leafy tries to do her whole helping thing in BFB 1, where he doesn't want Leafy's help. His translated line when Leafy asks him if he wants help is, "Don't," because he doesn't want help. Now, this singular line that Roboty says here is surprisingly multifaceted, and deserves some further analysis, which is what I'm going to do here. On the first hand, you assume he says don't, not asking for Leafy's help because it's Leafy. Leafy isn't exactly the best. At least at this point in time, her quote-unquote helpfulness will only lead down a path of destruction and death, which is pretty much exactly what happened. So if Roboty was able to clock that, that does show some intelligence on his behalf. But if you think about this more, you can't ignore the fact that Roboty quite obviously needs help. I mean, he basically can't do anything on his own. Look at the Blocky Funny's Doings clip. He just gets bodied, and he can't do anything about it. He gets punched infinitely over and over again, and he can't move or do anything to stop it. I think you could also look at the line as Roboty refusing to accept the pity or help from others, who haven't ever stood by him. Nobody helped him while he was being infinitely punched forever. Nobody's even paid attention to him until now, so why should he accept their help?
Anyway, so for me, that's been the biggest wake-up call. Letting go, giving up control. It's like they say, man plans and God laughs.
That is such bullshit.
Excuse me?
Never give up control.
Now, the third interpretation of this line is something that will require further context, which we will see in BFB 2, it being that I don't think Roboty wants to be here. I don't think Roboty wants to compete. I don't think Roboty even wants a BFDI. I don't think he wants to be on a team at all. I mean, we see everybody else make the oh my gosh face, except Roboty's face just glows up, which we assume means he wants to compete, but we don't know that. Now, the reason why I say this is because of what happens in the next episode and onward, which is Roboty leaves. Roboty leaves his team. Roboty goes off to the waterfall. Now, the waterfall is an interesting place that Roboty seemingly has the ability to teleport to, and it's also connected to Four's eyeball for some reason. And while I would love to go more in depth, that's more of a theorizing thing rather than a character analysis thing, so I'm going to focus on the why of why Roboty goes into the waterfall. You see, this is why I think Roboty doesn't want to compete, because he actively runs away from the competition, unlike any other character we've ever seen. He knows the viewers don't really care for him, and he doesn't think the other contestants really care for him either. He was fine with just living alongside them while the area was in peace, but now that there's a competition going on, he knows eventually he's gonna get out, and he doesn't want to go back inside another box again for years upon years. He wants to stay out of that. He doesn't want to know whatever's going on with Four. So he leaves. And perhaps, maybe, just maybe, he finds peace. But then something interesting happens. Roboty's teammates call out for him. They call out for Roboty, which is something I don't think has ever happened to Roboty before. Roboty probably assumed they would have just forgot about him when he left, wouldn't even have given him a second thought. But no, they call out his name. They actually want him back. It's also rather poignant to point out who calls Roboty's name, that being Woody, because I think Roboty and Woody have an interesting relationship which hasn't really been explored by anybody else before, which I'll get into later, when we get to it. The pleading of his teammates, and by that I mean Woody, actually convinces Roboty finally to come back. Because maybe, just maybe, he finally has somebody who actually cares about him. Unfortunately, he happens to teleport right into the drop zone, where he does happen to have a nice conversation with Cloudy, and then, ouch! Ooh! If he wasn't crippled before, he's definitely crippled now. Interestingly enough, the only one to react to the complete evisceration of Roboty's insides is, once again, Woody. So I think now's as good a time as any to talk about the connection that the two of them have, which is probably best displayed in this episode. However, in another episode, we're able to get a little tidbit of information that might just give us a whole new perspective on these two's relationship. The episode I'm talking about is, of course, BFB 14, where Woody enters Roboty's waterfall. The reason I'm even talking about the two of them in the first place is because Woody seems to recognize this place. He calls out Roboty's name when he comes here. So, there's two ways this can be interpreted. One is that Roboty actually let Woody into the waterfall, making him the only other person that we've seen Roboty actually allow into his waterfall, probably giving him a deeper connection and a friendship unlike any other we've seen Roboty form. Now, the other way you can interpret this is by looking at BFB2 in a bit of a stranger way, and when I said the two of them had a connection, there's a way you can take it to be a bit more literal. You see, because Woody seems to be the only one who's able to communicate with Roboty into the waterfall. It's quite amazing his voice is able to travel there in the first place. He's normally quite silent and never really all that loud or even coherent. So that rings as a bit strange to me. But secondly, when Woody screams, and this is personally what I've always read it as, it kind of feels like Woody is screaming because he feels Roboty's pain. The way the shot is cut really is the main reason I think this, but also because Leafy and Nickel don't seem to even notice that Roboty's back or just been crushed. And if Woody is looking right at him, you'd assume that Leafy and Nickel would see him too, so it's a bit strange, especially because they think that Woody's screaming just came out of nowhere, or because Nickel caused it. Then again, they aren't exactly the brightest of BFDI competitors, so I wouldn't put it past them to not notice it, but still, it's a bit weird. I've always felt like the connection these two had kind of went into the paranormal slightly, but I might just be misinterpreting things based on the editing style of early BFB. Regardless, I think that the most important thing to take away from this is that Roboty found a home with Beep. I mean, Beep was a collection of the wimps and weirdos of the BFDI cast. Woody, who was basically more pandaphobic than Charlie Brown. Cloudy, who's just a hoarder. Rocky, who basically just has the brain of a constantly nauseous dog. Balloony, who's the most normal one, but he's still balloony. David, who's a... man. Leafy, who had basically been socially outcasted by everybody at this point. And Nickel.
Oobly goobly weezer beezers.
Yeah, it's not hard to understand why Roboty finally was able to fit in here. Over the course of his short time in BFB, he's able to actually make connections and friendships throughout his team. He's even seen as somewhat of a useful asset, giving his team the winning idea in episode 3. When he's eliminated, Balloony actually does show some concern for him, and when he disappears, both him and Woody call out for him once again. He still does run off to the waterfall once again, but this time it's probably just out of fear of being eliminated. Either way, he probably thinks he's gonna get separated from his friends, but this way he gets to live at peace while he does that. Perhaps Roboty comes back sometimes to visit his former teammates. Maybe one time he even came back and took Woody back with him to the waterfall. It would make sense timeline-wise. Roboty was finally living the good life. He didn't have to compete in the competition anymore, but he didn't have to separate himself from the friends he made along the way. Roboty was finally at peace. Oh, god damn it. So, Roboty's time in the exit kinda sucks for him. He's once again surrounded by people who treat him like nothing more than a kind of useless object at the end of the day. Talk about irony. During their first escape attempt, they don't even try to get him out of the exit. They instead leave him basically as a part of their stack, so that there's no way he can get out. Then, during their next escape attempt, they just fully leave him behind to be captured by 4, calling him basically nothing more than dead weight. Now, to be fair, 4 did catch him before they could leave, and them saving Roboty would have been a huge risk to their escape plan in general, but still, they just left him there, and they didn't bat an eye about it. Well, everybody except for David. Unlike Firey Jr., Roboty does actually have one friend in the exit, that being David, the only former Beep member left in the exit with him. You see, David and Roboty are actually quite similar. I'd argue that David has faced just as much discrimination as Roboty from the BFDI cast, if not more, because he's been around longer. The biggest difference between the two of them, and the reason this video is focusing on Roboty, is that Roboty's just funnier. Also, just like Roboty, if you want to understand David, you gotta do your homework. But unlike Roboty, the amount of work you'd have to do is nearly impossible, because to find the true personality of David, you would have to dig deep into the hard drive of one Carrie Huang, going back all the way to 2011, and find one very specific audio file called david.wave, where you can hear this.
You're probably thinking, there goes that dumb stick figure again. He's so stupid and annoying. And if you thought that, well, you'd be wrong. Because I'm not stupid. I guess it never occurred to you that I don't speak the same language as you. In my language, the words "aw seriously" actually have several meanings that you couldn't possibly understand. Oh, and also, if you thought my name was David, you'd be wrong again, because my name isn't David. My name is actually a word that you probably can't pronounce, but the reason people think my name is David is because I come from a group of stick figures known as the Davidians. Now, there are a lot of Davidians. For example, Dora is a Davidian, but she's not my sister, she's my cousin, so get that right. While some Davidians...
Alright, yeah, I'm just gonna cut that off there. Anyways, yeah, David's name isn't even David, he's just a Davidian. You know, I hate to say it, I hate to be that guy, but it appears to me that David and Roboty are facing the BFDI world's equivalent to racism, mainly perpetuated by the viewers, including some of you who are watching right now. Whoop! During the escape of the exit, I think Roboty's given the most interesting role as Four's hostage, where Four tries to get him to sell out the rest of the group, where Roboty doesn't seem to know where they are, but he doesn't even seem to care either. And I can see why this is. I don't think Roboty doesn't want to escape Four and get back to his waterfall and maybe even the friends he left behind, but I don't think he trusts his fellow Exiters enough to take him with them. I'm not even sure if he thinks they're competent enough to escape or not. So Roboty does what only the most badass of contestants would do. He formulates his own escape plan, and it does not go well. I mean, he's gonna get the door eventually. No, Four, come on, what are you doing? Don't stop him. Why? It was so close. But seriously though, Four, this is like killing a terminally ill child. There's just no point to it. So attempt number 1 did not work. Who would have guessed? But Roboty's not giving up yet. He's got another plan. And holy shit, that actually worked. He actually saved the day. Oh my god, Roboty's the man. Yeah. Wow, Roboty actually took down Four. I mean, granted, 8-Ball also kind of just took down Four, but, like, you know, he still gets points. He saved them right towards the end, so good job, Roboty. He also gives them the plunger, which is how they get out of there in the first place, so. I mean, humiliatingly enough, he still has to have David carry him out of there, which David seems very happy to do, which is nice and a little sweet. But, you know, he's still the most disabled contestant in, I think, all of BFDI, except for the fact he can teleport. Anyways, Roboty is able to make his way outside of Four alongside the others, and then gets the best TPOT debut screen. And then, you know, obviously fails to debut because the viewers hate him. Luckily for us, this is not the last we get to see of Roboty, because he's the first non-debuting Exiter to return back into TPOT. And he knows how to make an entrance too by just smashing right into TV. This is our first real look at Roboty after the events of TPOT 11, and he seems somewhat in good spirits actually. He seems quite proud of what he accomplished in the exit, being the hero that saved everyone, and he seemingly can't wait to gush about it to everybody else. And keep in mind, Roboty's not a prideful or braggadocious person. How could he be? He can barely even talk. I think for once, Roboty's actually just proud of himself. He's proud of the fact he overcame his disability and was the one who actually kinda saved them in the end and got them out of the exit. Maybe, for once, it's actually good to be Roboty. Oh wait, nobody fucking cares. Once again, Roboty has just been returned to object status. Four and X just use him as a marking dummy, Robot Flower just kicks him aside, Lie and Pen just use him as a hiding place. Nobody respects Roboty. Nobody even thanks him for what he did. Hell, if anything, they admonish him. Pencil clearly holds nothing but disdain for Roboty for saving the day instead of her. And all of Roboty's friends are gone. Balloony and Woody went off to BFB, Cloudy, Nickel, and Rocky got eliminated, and David's who knows where. Roboty is alone. He wanted to escape the exit, but at this point, I think he was better off in it. And at this point, I think he just wants to be left alone but he can't even be given that. Even his fellow mechanical minds don't even treat him with any respect. It's really kind of sad to see that after Roboty takes Pen and Lie to the waterfall unwillingly, a place that he never wanted to be invaded by anybody else, Pen tries to kind of reach out to Roboty and actually talk with him, but Roboty's already gone. They already used him, and Pen doesn't even understand why Roboty would be upset. Roboty could have made a friend here, but he didn't, and I don't think he ever could have. You know what? I think this can be best explained or summed up through Roboty's own words. So for once, I'll let him speak.
Leave me alone. You just toss me aside and I am fed up. I helped you be free, Lie, and this is how you pay me back. No one cares that I saved the day. You get to roam free and play in BFDI while I get to sit here lying.
That's my boy right there, and he needs a win. Speaking of which, in my last video, plug, I theorized that Roboty would host the next episode, which we now know is untrue because TPOT 18 is going to be a BFB-focused episode where they look at the BFB cast, which personally I'm all for. I want to see what those wacky fuckers are up to. And on the topic of Roboty, I'd love to see if we get a Beep reunion underway. We already got Leafy, Balloony, and Woody, so that's enough. But anyways, I do think eventually Roboty might get a chance to host, and also a chance for revenge. Roboty said that they'd pay for leaving him behind, and they haven't seen any payment yet, so let's see it happen. Now, one of the main reasons I want to see Roboty host, or think he's going to host, is because of the Roboty Twitter takeover. Now, if you're unaware, during April Fools, Roboty took over the Twitter account of Jack and Jellyfy, where he posted stuff like this. That's my boy! The Roboty Twitter takeover shows us a lot of Roboty's great humor, and it's just kind of really funny. Roboty's a funny character if you give him a chance to shine. He has a lot of deadpan humor, which is just my sort of thing, but not as much as another certain somebody. The Twitter takeover didn't really show us all that much, other than the fact that TV and Roboty seem to be getting along now, and Roboty's dreams of what he would do with limbs. Look at that beautiful boy. Now this is what brings me to my TPOT 19 theory, because I think no matter what, no matter the votes, I think that Lie will be eliminated. Now I don't think that Lie will be eliminated by votes. My current guest has and always been TV, but as I said, Roboty is going to host, at least in this theory. And I think if Roboty is going to host, I don't think he's going to get rid of his newly befriended mechanical mind over the person who has treated him as nothing but an object for their entire quote-unquote friendship. So I think that Roboty will manipulate the votes and make it so TV survives and Lie doesn't. Which he will probably get caught on. I don't think Lie will actually be eliminated if this happens. I also think that if they do this, they might actually give Roboty a voice. My guess would be that Tennis Ball would make some kind of Morse code translator for him that would give him some kind of text-to-speech voice, like what he had in BFDIA. Now, if Roboty's hosting, I think the challenge can be only one of two things. Either finding David, which I'm not particularly confident on. While I do think David has great love for Roboty, I don't think Roboty has great love for anybody. I think the years in the exit and the LOL have just bittered him over time, and even while he was able to make friends with Woody, Balloony, and David in the first place, I don't think he could ever feel as strongly as they do towards him. I mean, just look at his Teapot debut interview. He clearly shows some disdain towards all of the other exiters, and we can see the same thing when he tries to escape the exit on his own and says he doesn't care about all of the other exiters. I do think Roboty cares about David and Balloony and Woody, but I think he's too insecure and bitter from all of the challenges he's faced across his life to ever admit it by doing a challenge like this. I think what's more likely is that Roboty will make a challenge that is just entirely designed to mess with the cast of BFDI. I think he'll make a challenge that will make him feel powerful and them feel powerless. A challenge that will make them feel like the object they ironically treated him as. And I also think this challenge will be rigged against Pencil. She's gotta pay after all. And for watchers of my previous theory, I think this could tie into the whole donut and one thing. One may also use Roboty and his animosity towards Pencil to get revenge on Donut, who will be on the same team as Pencil most likely. But I've already had one full 40-minute long video for that already. Speaking of which, we just hit the 40-minute mark like a few minutes ago. Uh-oh, I better speed this up. Okay, one real last quick thing about Roboty before we get to our honorable mentions. And I know I said I wouldn't make any theories about the waterfall, but something came up while I was doing research for this, and I just find it interesting, so I made a theory off of it. Anyways, this quick theory is that I think I know what Roboty's purpose is as a robot and a mechanical mind. You see, because I think Roboty's purpose is he's a garbage disposal robot. You've got to remember that the waterfall is actually just Golf Ball's garbage disposal chute, or at least it just leads there anyway. I don't know why it also leads to Four's eyeball and to the real world, where BFDI episode 25, that whole thing takes place, but that's for another day. This idea came to me when I saw Y, Pen, and X invade Roboty's little chute hole that he's got inside of him, and how he kind of just teleports to the waterfall right away when they do that. My guess would be that Roboty's functionality would be to fill up that little chute hole, then he would teleport to the waterfall and just dump all of that trash into the seemingly pocket dimensions that the waterfall has. And also, being a garbage robot just kind of really fits with his personality and the way people treat him. Anyways, that's enough yapping. Let's get to the honorable mentions!
Not enough for me to just win. To avenge Sticky, I need to make sure that Ice loses.
You know, her personality is as interesting as dirt, but I really want to see what's going on with that whole lie thing. Although I don't think there's any chance of her winning a rejoin, so it's probably best to look over this in IDFB somehow.
Life may be worse now, but at least I'm free.
Speaking of a Teapot rejoin, this is the person who should win it, but probably won't. Pie Day was such a good short that really shined Pie's personality, which we never got to see while she was on Death Pact, and I want to see more of that, so bring her back into Teapot.
Because they suck. Everyone sucks. They see you, your genius mind, your charismatic nature, and your bowling high score of 196, and they feel bad about themselves. You're better than them. You don't owe them anything. For once in your life, PDA, do something for yourself.
Speaking of the shorts, this motherfucker is so much better than the stupid idiots who we actually got debuted. I regret voting for winner so much. Nobody else could carry an episode this hard. Bring PDA in. Bring it. I don't even care. Don't even put it up to a vote. Just bring her in. Cheat it.
I don't know what those sirens are for, but it doesn't matter because the lava will kill us.
They should just, give Balloony a Glock 19. There's enough content for, a full year within that one premise.
Oh, I'm sorry, David, master of baking. Sorry our cake doesn't meet your health codes.
Okay, take Balloony with the Glock 19 and then just put David there, and now that's 1,000 years worth of content. That's 1,000. You know, I really want to see more of this absolute demon. I mean, what are they capable of? How many people have they killed? And how many more people are they going to kill?
Well, I'm really starting to miss Balloony. He was a really good friend, and if he had been alive, we might not have lost the contest.
This is my kitchen. A sink that has trash all over it. I can't really get to it without moving all of that away.
Okay, but seriously though, what's the deal with this guy? Is he even conscious? What even is he? Is he like a dog? What's going on? I want to know what's going on with Rocky.
I deserve it. I've been eliminated 4 times.
I kind of already went over this one earlier. I feel like Spongey's a completely different character now than what he was in BFDI. So I feel like even though he is a 5th placer, I still want to see more of him and this new personality that he's got.
Dark humor is the way some people cope with tragedy.
Alright, don't get me wrong. Gelatin's oversaturated as hell, but I want to see the real Gelatin before they made him stupid. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Info Distinct made a pretty good video on this. Go check it out.
I'm stuck in! I know what I'm doing! Okay.
taking the elevator, stupid.
I had kind of high hopes for Just Not, but they never really went anywhere. I really like the idea of Naley as a renegade leader of Just Not, and Just Not being kind of this chaotic team that has no rules, and Naley was like the poster child of this. And also, I just love to see how Bomby would fit in on that team with his OCD having ass, and how he would just freak out constantly at all of them. Maybe even replicating Donut, kind of. It would have been such an interesting dynamic that Just Not never really fulfilled, and just kind of became a joke team. It really just all went downhill when Naley was eliminated. Or, no, it really just went all downhill when the writing change happened.
Well, we sure weren't winners this time. I thought I could glide through the competition without danger.
Speaking of the writing change ruining a character, I do think Eggy had a lot of potential. As the most brash of the loser followers, she definitely had an appeal, and I really would have liked to see how that she would have worked out on Strongest Team. I think her and Basketball worked out really well. They could have been great co-team leaders, and there could have been a lot of team leader strife that would have been interesting to see, but alas, never came to happen.
Stapy, Luke Flock, what the fulcrum? I was about to go see Foldy. You're eliminated. You shouldn't be here. I just wanted to stay and watch, okay? Watchers are wannabes.
Speaking of TPOT ruining a character, I mean, BFB 15 set him up for this whole arc only for it to just completely ruin him and barely really be connected at all. I mean, they make him out like he was the biggest loser follower of them all when no, that was cake the whole time. I mean, out of the loser followers, he had the most unique and interesting personality, being a strict stickler who viewed himself as the protector of the team, which he failed to do. There's so many ways that personality could have been taken and utilized, but no, Teapot just kind of ruined him. If there was a Teapot rejoin, I'd kind of like to see him rejoin, but I don't think he deserves it.
First you killed me, and then you trapped me in an inescapable box, and I'm sure Max will tell you how awful that is. I don't care about any of that. You'll be punished for murdering me.
La la la, buildings and castles, minding my own business and singing to myself like the legend that I am.
I want to see more of this absolute mad lad. He's basically just if you added a Troc character to BFDI, and I fucking love it. He needs to officially compete in a season. Please, please!
Hey Katie, what's your favorite number?
3. Why?
Oh, no reason. Just wanted to let you know that I don't have a favorite number.
Alright. Now, this one is gonna take a while for me to convince you I'm not joking about it. After all, it is 8-Ball BFDI, the one guy who's been in like every object show ever and just shows up. He's a pretty funny gag character in that way, and he's also a good character in BFB. If you'll let me explain. I think the best way to do this is just let's follow his journey from start to finish, see what we find. 8-Ball seems to be really insistent on the fact that he doesn't have a favorite number, which is a bit strange. Other than that, the first thing I've noticed is very monotone delivery. He's got an interesting way of speaking. I mean, don't get me wrong, he still sounds like all the other Carrie voice-acted characters. He sounds a lot like Tennis Ball, but the way he speaks and the tone at which he speaks it makes every scene he's in feel a little bit more interesting. Well, the next thing we get to see of 8-Ball, Basketball asks him to join her team because they're both balls, a notion she brings up rather jokingly, but it seems like 8-Ball takes it seriously, even suggesting more balls to add to their team. Bit of a shape supremacist, huh? I am a little surprised that they were able to get Golf Ball to join the team based on that. I feel like maybe she would object to that, more likely, especially considering that she might view 8-Ball as useless considering his, lack of any limbs whatsoever. Although, I guess she doesn't have that high of a horse to judge from. And then the next scene we see of him, he's got this smug-ass face. What is he smiling about? Not much more happens with 8-Ball until Blocky kills both Golf Ball and Tennis Ball, where 8-Ball immediately sees the chance to take power and control over the team as the new pseudo-team leader, I guess? He also continues the legacy of ignoring Grassy. New order, same as the old order. Well, his leadership was successful, and then forward, nothing much more happens with him until he absolutely destroys this Jawbreaker. Don't worry, his teeth aren't that solid. It's a yellow face thing. There's a deleted scene all about it. But after Golf Ball is freed, something interesting happens. Blocky and Basketball confront Golf Ball for her lack of respect for her fellow teammates, especially Grassy, and instead of any of them stepping up, they hand the reins over to 8-Ball, somebody who's been rather non-confrontational for this entire confrontation. Well, 8-Ball's first official action as team leader is...
Okay, guys, spin forward.
Okay, guys, spin backward.
You didn't obey me. People, you can't be serious.
Did you forget? We listen to 8-Ball now.
Yes, he is a much better leader. Maybe you could at least jump up?
No, duck down.
Turn yellow?
Turn purple.
Interesting. This is definitely a choice he's making here. I mean, I guess he could just be flexing on Golf Ball or really trying to prove that the new order is actually different than the old order. But either way, eventually they got there and did win the challenge. So, good on him. I mean, 8-Ball has been directly responsible for each of their victories so far, so I'm sure him as team leader is a good idea. Let's see what happens in BFB 4.
Teardrop's team already finished. Guys, let's not waste time here.
Guys, let's waste time here.
I'm so glad we listened to 8-Ball.
I mean, this is pretty funny, but still, what is going on with this guy? He's a little bit kooky, huh? Well, we finally get the answer to everything that's been going on when better namers almost lose the challenge because of 8-Ball's tomfoolery, and he comes clean about something.
Almost lost. This is bad.
We almost won. This is good. No, we nearly lost, and this is my fault.
8-Ball, you're not a completely useless, moronic, dumb robot. Thanks.
I thought I was helping you.
What?
Everything I said, it was in a sarcastic tone. I wanted to add some humor to lift the spirits of our team.
This entire time, throughout the entirety of BFB so far, all of this, 8-Ball has just been doing one giant bit. Him being team leader was nothing more than a joke. He was just pulling a prank. He has been sarcastic this whole time, and you can't say, oh no, he didn't know that they elected him team leader. He was the team leader. He wasn't just being sarcastic. He was trolling everybody. He was fooling everybody around. Nothing he said is serious. The comment about the balls, he doesn't care about balls. He just finds it funny. 8-Ball has a favorite number. Well, I mean, at least we know he's being serious now.
I don't have a favorite number.
Where does it end? He's still doing a bit! He's still doing a bit! This guy's entire existence is one long joke, one overplayed bit, and we are the punchline! We are the punchline! It doesn't matter if you think 8-Ball not having a favorite number isn't funny or is a tired and stale gag. It doesn't matter because 8-Ball finds it funny, and he doesn't care what you think. He's gonna keep doing it no matter what, because he finds it fucking hilarious. I don't even know where to start with this. I guess let's start with Golf Ball's comment, first of all.
8-Ball, you're not a completely useless, moronic, dumb robot. Thanks.
I think this comment definitely shows on how the rest of the world, the viewing audience and the objects included, view 8-Ball. He's kind of an awkward guy, and I think he definitely has some trouble communicating what he actually really means at the end of the day. He at least definitely has some autism-like traits. I think you can really see his trouble in communicating when it comes to his whole pseudo-breakdown here at the end. I genuinely cannot tell if he's being serious here. On one hand, he does reveal the bit, which feels counterintuitive to him continuing the bit, and after this point, he does seem to try and change. I mean, he really does try to actually be useful to the team and stop his non-stop shenanigans. It makes me wonder if this is a thing that 8-Ball actually wanted, to be useful. I mean, it makes me think of that comment Golf Ball said, calling him a useless moronic robot, which also harks back to what Snowball said at the very beginning, calling the others useless for having no arms. But 8-Ball doesn't just not have no arms, he also has no legs. He's just, all he can do is roll. I mean, I really hate to say it, but I think unfortunately the guy kind of is useless. At the end of the day, all he has is his wits and his mouth, which he really does try to use here. Maybe the whole reason he botched this team leader opportunity is because he's afraid of being useless, because he's afraid of failing at it, because that might mean that he is, in fact, useless entirely. So, he didn't try, he made a whole joke out of it. That way he can't fail. That way they can't see him as useless. That way he can't see himself as useless. That way golf ball's wrong and snowball's wrong.
But then he says he doesn't have a favorite number. The bit is still going. He's still doing a bit. You can't fool me. I see you this time, boy. I see you this time.
Maybe 8-Ball just doesn't care about everything. Maybe he really doesn't have a favorite number. Maybe he just thinks everything is a joke, so he makes a joke out of it. I genuinely don't know if he's being genuine here, but even if he is, it's still played for a joke. If he's being genuine, this is probably one of the saddest moments in BFDI, but he can't communicate that, and it's just one big joke, so he might as well laugh along. On the topic of being useless, a scene in TPOT 11 really made me think about this. It's the scene where Dora drops 8-Ball into the water, and he just kind of has to drown. It's a surprisingly dark scene if you think about it, because similar to Roboty, 8-Ball can't help himself. He's kind of just forced to drown here. He can't swim, he can't move, even. It's a surprisingly dark scene. It's also an interesting parallel between 8-Ball and Roboty, how they both have to be carried around by stick figures. I guess 8-Ball's more handy-capable than Roboty, but still. We can find another parallel between these two if we look at the original Escape from the Exit, where both Roboty and 8-Ball are the only two who don't actually get to escape. Firey Jr. is also in this pool, but he's just not allowed to. Whereas 8-Ball and Roboty are not allowed to escape because of their own physical limitations, Firey Jr. is also not allowed to because of his own physical limitations. However, he could continue to escape. It would just cause havoc for everybody else. It feels like a very fitting metaphor for the three of them in general. I knew there was a good reason why I chose these three to focus on in this video. I don't know where to go next with this character. Something about him has always fascinated me. Whether it be the fact he just appears everywhere and is a funny running gag. But I don't know, I guess it was more than that. Doing this in-depth look at him, it definitely gives me a new perspective. I don't know, maybe I find the characters oddly relatable. Anyways, I'm convinced this man is powerful enough to manipulate space-time. I mean, how else does he always get the 8 votes? He got 8 votes on his first debut, he got 800 more votes than Golf Ball when he was eliminated, and 4,000, which is half of 8. What? And when Saul carried on the curse of 8-Ball, 8 less votes than Donut, out! Wait, how many votes did he get on the rejoin? Okay, wait, what about the other one?
Fault match and Roboty. You got 3,600.
Oh. Well, that's kind of disappointing. Not only. Oh my match! Why? What the 4,880? What the? What? Also, the season he debuted in was season 4, and it was hosted by 4, which is this 2 4s equals 8. Okay, I'm gonna get off of this before I predict the rapture. Okay, you know, I realized throughout all of this, I haven't even, gotten to 8-Ball's elimination or anything, so, you know, let's do that. I mean, the elimination itself isn't too notable. I mean, outside of them just propping 8-Ball up like he was nothing but a gag character and just removing him because it's the 8th episode, and also Donut crushing him to death at the moon, the only notable thing about this elimination is what 8-Ball and Golf Ball say to each other right before they're eliminated.
Don't worry, Basketball. I will try my hardest to remain on the team too. Hey, shush, she's talking to me. Whatever. It'll be so much easier when you're gone. Quiet!
It's weird to see 8-Ball fall back into the pattern of antagonizing Golf Ball so easily here, especially after all of that time of him trying to stop doing that. I don't know, maybe he's just trying to get in one last bit before he gets completely fucking eviscerated. But another way of looking at it is, well, maybe 8-Ball's worried. I mean, if Golf Ball is eliminated here, it's pretty possible that 8-Ball could step up to team leader again. But also, maybe he just wants to believe that basketball is asking for him. He wants to believe that they'll care if he gets out, which in reality they don't, and they won't. So, let's just get to the exit. 8-Ball's time in the exit is interesting. I can tell a general trend of the writers not really knowing how to write him, which is a bit disappointing. Hey, that's the main reason I made this video in the first place. But another thing interesting about 8-Ball in the exit is he kind of falls on a weird spectrum. I think, like Firey Jr., he might not have had any friends in the exit, contradicting what I said earlier, but I'm honestly not sure. Unlike Firey Jr., 8-Ball doesn't not make any friends because of his unpleasant attitude or just condescending thoughts on the rest of the Exiters in general. He just doesn't seem capable of it. I mean, I guess you could say he's friends with Dora. She does call him her buddy, but they don't really feel like friends in the same way that, like, Lie and Stapy or Match and Pencil or Pencil and Bracelety or David and Roboty feel like friends. This trio, just in general, feels pretty isolated from the rest of the group with no attachments back to it. Also, 8-Ball's got a new bit now. He's calling everything nonsense, and he's sick of the nonsense that he's probably causing, let's be honest. I think easily the most interesting thing to discuss about 8-Ball and TPOT 11 is the thing that everybody forgets about, which is that 8-Ball and Dora actually really just take down 4. 8-Ball coming up with the idea to sacrifice themselves so the others can escape, which is a surprisingly noble thing coming out of him. Maybe a little out of character. The writers don't really fully understand 8-Ball, but when I think about it, it does display some of those team leading qualities he didn't think he had. Maybe 8-Ball does care. He seems to be quite relieved to see that Dora and Firey Jr. survived, so maybe he actually does care for the other Exiters, even if he's not actually friends with any of them. Moving on to his exit interview, it's actually quite interesting. Similar enough to both Firey Jr. and Roboty, his interview reveals his apathy very thoroughly. See, while he's doing the favorite number gag once again, something about it feels a bit off. A bit like he's not laughing about it, like he's not enjoying the bit for once. I mean, if we really listen to what he's saying, he's just saying that he doesn't care. Doesn't care about getting into TPOT, doesn't care about getting eliminated from TPOT. It's a interesting side of him. And then he gets the least votes to join TPOT and is blown into the wind. You know, not gonna lie, that kinda hurt as an 8-Ball fan. I mean, I knew he wasn't gonna get in, but least votes still. Damn. Well, this leaves us with nothing left but the scene that left me screaming at the screen like a reaction streamer that's actually good at their job. The re-emergence of 8-Ball. There's not really much to say about this scene. It's clearly set up for something in the future, so I really should cover it more during speculation than anything else. But before we get to speculation and predictions, I'd like to cover how the TPOT audience, BFDI audience, generally views 8-Ball, because it's not good. I mean, public opinion on 8-Ball is pretty bad. Most people seem to view him as just nothing more than a bland, boring background character who really should just be removed from the series, basically making their screen time 0, just relegated and forgotten about entirely. I think a lot of this opinion comes from the Golf Ball and 8-Ball arc, and how a lot of people view it as a missed opportunity to spur Golf Ball's growth. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this kind of pisses me off. A lot of these people view 8-Ball as nothing more than a catalyst for Golf Ball's growth, which just completely ignores his personality and who he is. I mean, they just want him to be like Basketball too. I've seen people rewrite the whole Better Name arc to just make 8-Ball really bland and boring when they think they're making him more interesting. They want 8-Ball to be nothing more than a tool, a vehicle for Golf Ball's development, and then once they're done with him, they can just throw him away. This also bothers me because it misses the entire point of the Better Name arc in the first place. 8-Ball was never supposed to be a good leader because that would miss the entire point. It wasn't that 8-Ball cared about his teammates and Golf Ball didn't. We can see in BFD1 that 8-Ball holds Grassy with just as much disrespect as Golf Ball when leading, and anytime he didn't was probably just him being sarcastic. No, the point of the Better Name arc was that neither of them were a good choice. that when you rely on one person and one person only to lead, it blocks the healthy communication that is needed for a team. A lesson which they ultimately don't learn from just putting golf ball back into power and re-establishing the status quo at the end of the day. But this ultimately does fuel the independence of a lot of the better namers, mainly basketball, and something I could probably see with TV in the future as well. Now, with that out of the way, let's move on to 8-Ball's future. Which, if I'm being honest, is really hard for me to communicate. Not because 8-Ball doesn't have potential, it's because his potential is almost limitless. I could easily see 8-Ball winning a whole season and having at least like 5 arcs. I mean, this guy's personality, as I've analyzed it so far, is just brimming with potential. I mean, the mere fact I can't tell what part of him is a bit and what part of him is serious just goes to show how fun this character is to analyze, and how fun this character would be to be utilized. And I know, this is a headcanon as hell-ass way of looking at 8-Ball, but if the writers are actually going to use 8-Ball for something finally, I think this is the best way to look at him. It works well and fits with all his previous interactions, and it provides a surprisingly unique character to add to the BFDI cast. A character that I've just been itching to see more of. But I will admit, I'm having trouble seeing 8-Ball get to that point from the point he's at now. I mean, unlike the other two, I'd definitely say 8-Ball is in the most interesting position plot-wise. I mean, the mere fact that he was the one chosen to team up with Firey is just incredibly interesting to me. I mean, out of all of the Exiters, why 8-Ball? I mean, I understand why they wouldn't want to give something like this to any of the gag characters like Dora or David, but it's not like 8-Ball hasn't been written as anything but a gag character for a while now. And I can see why Match would be excluded from this list, but as far as I'm aware, all of the other Exiters would seem viable. I mean, why not use Firey Jr. for this? I've already mentioned how him and Firey have an interesting dynamic, although it's possible the writers didn't have the foresight for that when they brought him back into TPOT in the first place. Okay, but why not Stapy or Bracelety? I mean, the writers and viewers seem to enjoy them more than they do 8-Ball, so why not them? No, the use of 8-Ball here feels intentional. It feels like they might finally want to use him for something. Although I have hope, I can't deny I would be surprised if they actually used 8-Ball. I wouldn't put it past them for them just to have put 8-Ball here to check a box to say that 8-Ball's here, so that all of the Exiters have done at least something. I wouldn't be surprised if he just takes a backseat to Firey for this entire time. And even if he is relevant, I feel like putting him in such a plot-heavy situation runs the risk of him dissolving into the plot. Having his personality put on the back burner and used as nothing more than just set up for the plot. I hope that doesn't happen, but it seems all too likely it will. But, running with that hope, what do I hope will happen? Well, it seems evident to me based on the whole premise of TPOT 18 that Firey will probably join up with the other BFBers on their trip. Now, I think the best chance for 8-Ball relevance is to see him start to form a connection, a friendship with one of the BFBers. Now, Firey seems like the obvious answer, although it may just be my general lack of enjoyment of Firey as a character that makes me say I'm not too sure about that. I mean, Firey's got all this stuff going on with his relationship with Leafy and whatever's happening with her right now, where it feels like him forming a friendship with 8-Ball at best will kind of form on the back burner, and not really give 8-Ball any real relevance. And that's if there's any time for it at all. I think at best what we're going to see of Firey and 8-Ball is 8-Ball pulling some more shenanigans and Firey actually falling for them. It makes sense for both of their characters. 8-Ball being back up to his trickery seems, fun and a good way to use the character, and Firey falling for it is very in character for him. Maybe 8-Ball's trickery could get them into some serious trouble, which just like last time when they lost the challenge, it could be a serious chance for 8-Ball to reflect on himself. I think after this, Firey could show some disdain towards 8-Ball for his trickery, and maybe even just outright abandon them after they get back to the cast of BFBers. Then, 8-Ball is alone, pushed everybody away once again, giving him some time to truly reflect. If you want to get really wild, you could say this would lead him down the path to a deal with one, but I really doubt that. No, I think what's more likely, and what's best for 8-Ball is if we set him up for something here. A friendship, a dynamic that 8-Ball can rely on for at least a little bit longer, and that's by connecting him with one of these BFBers, as I said earlier. Firey's out of the picture, so which one would it be? Points towards Gelatin and Balloony for having compatible personalities with 8-Ball that could work, although I don't really see that happening with them. points towards Blocky for being the only other better namer, and having a mutual love of mischief like 8-Ball, which was unfortunately never explored in BFB, although his relation to Woody and Taco might be what's on the front focus with him, so it's unlikely that we'll get that with 8-Ball. No. I think the obvious answer is the one that all of you probably forgot about, and that is Profiley. I mean, when you honestly think about it, Profiley fits kind of perfectly for this. Maybe even a little too perfectly. For one thing, Profiley has a very similar way of awkwardly communicating, just like 8-Ball. He also, quite similarly to 8-Ball, at least at this point, is pretty lonely and has trouble making friends in the first place. I mean, I'm sure he thinks that all of the BFBers are like his best friends, but in reality they barely know him, and some of them barely even like him. I mean, sure, he seems to have a good relationship with X, and he tries to be friends with 4. I don't know if 4 really reciprocates that, but they're both gone. And while it seems likely that he had some sort of friendship with Teardrop, bringing her into TPOT, I think it's far more likely that he just butted in here and joined alongside Teardrop, who probably didn't even want him there in the first place. Also, incredibly similar to 8-Ball, he also seems to have fun doing these stupid little bits, which seemingly he only finds funny. They're both two outcasts among the BFBers, and I think a friendship among them would be genuinely really interesting and fun. I can just imagine these two having a great dynamic. Profiley's got a lot of love in his heart, and 8-Ball probably doesn't, but has a lot of potential to grow that love. I think these two would be best utilized as a comedic duo in the background of TPOT 18, and I'd love it if the two of them just showed up every now and then in TPOT. Honestly, it'd probably be best just to use TPOT as the fertilizer to grow the seeds of Profiley and 8-Ball's friendship, which can be harvested on later in maybe a future BFDI Season 6. I think that Profiley would encourage 8-Ball to be more goofy, encourage him to do his stupid little bits. Maybe he could finally help him see his comedic side as actually useful, finally getting 8-Ball out of the apathy he's kinda slipped into during TPOT. I could see so much material to be used in the future with these two. The over-emotionality of Profiley and the lack of emotion from 8-Ball could bounce off each other really well to create conflict. Also, their non-stop shenanigans could be another interesting detail to explore. There's been a pattern of 8-Ball getting in trouble for this thus far, and maybe this could be used to explore how the two of them are destructive for each other. All of this is totally potential for future arcs, which could be explored in a potential Season 6 maybe, and I really do hope for it. Although, who knows how far hope can get us. It's unknown if Profiley's even gonna be with the other BFBers or not. I mean, the last time we see him, he climbed up this mysterious-ass rope ladder which came out of nowhere. I mean, he did show up again in the shift, but that's not really canon to this timeline anymore. I'm not gonna lie, it would be really funny if it just turns out he's been on that rope ladder for the last 4 years. Hey, maybe he could show up on that rope ladder to rescue Firey and 8-Ball. That'd be a pretty funny plot device. As unlikely as it may be, I really do hope for the best for 8-Ball, and I hope that leads to Profiley, but we'll see. We will truly see. So yeah, that's the end of the video. That was the video. Hope you enjoyed. This is kind of a big step up from last video. I didn't expect this to be this goddamn long. Believe it or not, I thought this was going to be a short video. As I'm recording right now, we are at an hour and 12 minutes. Short video. I mean, I really just guess I had a lot to say about these three. I'm hopefully going to get this video out before TPOT 18. If not, that's unfortunate. That's going to be a lot of work. I'm going to be doing a lot of work on this because I've got like 7 days to edit this entire thing, and including my birthday, so I'm probably going to be editing over that. That's fine. We'll see. We'll see if I can get this out. I can probably do it. It might be a little cheap looking, but we'll see. We'll see. Some of the audio was definitely a bit rushed, if you didn't notice that. Hopefully I'll do better next time. I have a lot of other things I want to do. I've been pretty busy, which is why this took so long. Almost a month since the last video. Sorry about that. I might definitely do more of these. I was playing Deltarune, and I've got an idea for a full Deltarune theory I might put up here, so, say if you're interested in that, because I think I actually found something quite interesting about Deltarune. Ooh, foreshadowing. I've also been working on making games. If you don't know, which why would you know? Because I've never said it. I'm a game designer. I design games. I've been thinking of doing devlogs, uploading a devlog for my board game I'm making. But show interest in that if you're interested in that. That it helps me to see what the algorithm demands. Which all hail the almighty algorithm or something. But I mean, I will thank the algorithm for this. The last video did fucking incredible. I mean, it's really, especially really great for me. Probably by the time I upload this, it will be at like 30K views, which is just fucking wild. That's insane. I was lucky to get 1,000 views on that thing. So, hooray! Hopefully this gets just as much, if not more, views. Probably less though. This is a bit more obscure. Also, one thing I never really got to mention in the Firey Jr. section was the relationship between him and Bommy, where they're supposedly good friends. It even mentions it in the BFDI guidebook, but there's just not really that much to it, and I didn't really have time to go back and edit the Firey Jr. section, so I just thought I should mention that here so I don't offend the Bommy Firey Jr. shippers. God bless. We don't want to offend them. They control the world, after all. I've got a couple non-video essay big projects in the works, so if you're interested in any of that, hit the subscribe button. Do it! Hit the subscribe button now! I'm not fucking Mr. Beast, so I'm not gonna force that in your face, but if you want to hit it, go ahead. I don't really care enough, so do it if you want. I do think I might do a video about the whole one theory, one and one's plans. I was planning to release it after TPOT 18 and see a little bit more of one and what she's up to, but it looks like there's not going to be any one in TPOT 18. Maybe there'll be like an after credits sting or something, but it looks like TPOT 19 is a much bigger episode than I thought it was going to be, and it's probably going to be when the whole one thing comes to a head, so I might want to release that before TPOT 19. We'll see. I'll think about it. I have a pretty good idea on what one is and what she wants, but I don't know. Donut and Pencil video, maybe. Maybe also after TPOT 19, because I do want a little bit more, I want to see if I was right about the speculation about the two of them. I want to see how that develops, and so I have more to talk about other than what I talked about in the Donut video. Other than that, I did put a Spongy video on the list, so I might want to do that. And maybe even a profile-y video too, although I kind of went over him here, so we'll see. A lot of stuff in the works. Enjoy. You'll enjoy it. This is the end of this video, though, because it's been like a whole hour, so you better have enjoyed it, or else I'm going to kill you. Goodbye.